Snoop, hands in the air over here!
Why?
Because I'll kill you if you don't!
Not a very persuasive argument, actually, Stubbs, because I'm going to die soon anyway. Yes, of course I can find the antidote. I owe it to my friend to try because I got her into this. So you see, I'm not going to let you stop me now!
The Fifth Doctor's final episode, The Caves of Androzani, is widely considered to be one of the best episodes of classic Who. Peter Davison gives a stunning performance as a Doctor with nothing left to lose, as he and his new companion Perry endure imprisonment, near-certain death via poison, and the leering of a creepy bastard in a gimp suit. Five went out like an absolute hero, giving the antidote to Perry, knowing there was no guarantee he will regenerate. And even if he did, there's no telling how he would turn out. So imagine, if you will, what it must have been like to go from this heroic ending to this.
Oh no!
And when I went,
look, he's strangling you. This was
very controversial, wasn't it?
Very controversial. The Doctor should be so.
I gave the Twin Dilemma a rather bad rap in my Jubilee review, but that was only from the perspective of someone watching it in the 80s as it came out. In a modern context, you can find a lot of joy out of it in a so bad it's good sort of way. The Sixth Doctor was intended to test the fandom, and indeed they did. They made the Doctor unlikable, the companion completely alone and unprotected, and had to fend for herself against Klingons wearing shiny horns and feathers, giant slug monsters, and the Doctor himself. The Twin Dilemma is a bad episode, but it is an absolute joy to watch. It's a blast. I mean, get a couple mates over, get them to bring over some tinnies, and chuck it on the TV, and that is a good night there. Okay, so we start the episode with these twins named Romulus and Remus. They are math boys who can't act, but that's okay. Their dad is overacting for them. Their dad thinks the boys are wasting their talents by playing triangle chess, as their mathematical skills can change things on a grand scale. Don't you realise that? He then leaves in a huff, leaving his adolescent sons home alone just in time to be kidnapped by this creepy old guy. This was probably okay in the 80s. They congratulate this creepy old guy for his entrance before remembering stranger danger, and that's probably not okay to have a creepy old guy in your house who you don't know. Oops, he kidnapped them. You might be wondering why they are named after the two brothers who started the Roman Empire, and you can keep wondering because there's nothing to justify this. Meanwhile, the Doctor's obsessing over his new self, where Perry is understandably horrified. Remember, she only met him a few days ago. Yes, I know, Big Finish has extended her timeline a little bit with 5, but from the context of the show, and only the show, she only just met him, and their first adventure together involved imprisonment in gimp suits. Perry makes the mistake of handing him a mirror. He then starts drooling over himself and bemoaning how shit he was in his past life. But whoops, he triggered himself. It's okay though, he quickly gets over it and picks out his new look. I love it. I would love to have a replica of that coat. Perry hates it though, but she's an American, so her taste doesn't count. We cut to the creepy old guy and his math boys. They arrive on a spaceship piloted by a bunch of weird bird alien things who look like Klingons who got way too into pheasant hunting. The silver horns are purely decorative. I particularly like this guy, who was clearly swooped by one too many magpies, and started wearing their carcasses as a warning to the others. If I'm being honest, I rather like this alien design. I just wish they had more of a prosthetics budget to really bring it to life. It could have been a very understated version of the Skeksis or something. Anyway, plot stuff happens, twins try to escape, back to the Doctor. He's planning a getaway to recover from his rather traumatic regeneration, when he is triggered by Perry's name, which is completely understandable. After all, Perry is the name of a fairy from Arabian folklore, and Perry didn't know that. She should have known that, but she doesn't. She's obviously an alien spy! The Doctor had no choice but to try and kill her. But alas, he is thwarted at the last second by his reflection and passes out. The math boy's dad comes home to find the math boys are missing. Rather than celebrating, he immediately goes to his Commodore 64 and calls the space police, and they send out this guy. He's rather forgettable, so I'm just going to call him Space Cop. The Doctor comes to and refuses to believe that he tried to kill Perry, but she convinces him by acting completely terrified. The Doctor then realises that he is a peril to the universe, so he makes the very logical decision to become a hermit and make Perry his disciple. She has no say in this arrangement. Yay! They arrive at a lesser planet in the Jaconda system, Titan 3, and are nearly hit by the plot. Space Cop nearly crashes into them. Going outside, they come across the crashed spaceship, and the Doctor takes this opportunity to be a total cunt. They discover Space Cop, bring him in, and despite having a perfectly functional medical bay, they just plonk him on the floor of the console room. I put this down to the Doctor not being in his right mind, but really the budget probably just couldn't afford 2 sets. Anyway, the Doctor berates Perry for being understandably terrified. I mean, he did just try to kill her. Perry finally stands up to her abuser, and Space Cop wakes up, and as if by instinct, decides to shoot the brightly coloured twat who won't shut up. And we get our first cliffhanger. Bum-ba-dum, 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 ba-da-da-da-da-dum, ba-dum, bum-ba-dum, bum-ba-dum. As we return, Space Cop babbles about some children that he's after and passes out. The doctor refuses to help him, but Perry checks his pockets to discover he's a cop, and the doctor comes around. The math boys are set to work, but decide they don't wanna, so they need to be threatened by their new master, a horny slug thing which I'm going to call Slug Daddy. So Slug Daddy threatens to do what the audience wants to do but can't, and they get on with it. The doctor finishes patching up Space Cop, acts pompous, forgets he went there to be a hermit, and somehow deduces the plot of the entire episode, only based on the cop mentioning children. Oh look, it's a giant tit. Let's go explore it. The creepy old guy is converting the maths of the boys' equations into terms of power. That can somehow create a small sun. I'm not sure the people writing this know how math works. The math boys then go to rest in what looks like a brothel. Time to explore the giant tit. They make a lot of noise and find an entrance. Time to act like a giant tit while investigating a giant tit. The doctor calls Perry a coward and then decides to go back to the TARDIS, but oh no, it's the Glam Rock Klingons! The doctor hides behind Perry and tells them to shoot her instead. No, this is not part of some clever ploy. The doctor is legitimately using his companion as a human shield. Turns out the doctor and the creepy old guy used to be drinking buddies. Oh look, math boys. And they still can't act. Space Cop wakes up in a mysterious alien ship and decides the most logical thing to do is to find the wardrobe and dress like this. The old guy is keeping the doctor captive. The doctor simply can't help him, and the old guy can't let the doctor interfere, so he's just gonna have to lock the doctor and his companion in the giant tit while he escapes via teleport. Problem is, he set the teleport on shuffle after he left, so if the doctor and Perry ever try to use it, they will end up splattered all over the planet. Oh no! The room has been set to explode by this one guy who really likes pheasants. For a guy who looks like a literal piece of shit, Slug Daddy really inspires loyalty in his people. No time to crack the lock, the doctor has to improvise. So he did the very logical thing of turning a teleport that doesn't work into a time machine teleport that will teleport you to the TARDIS but 10 seconds in the past. Even though it's a teleport that doesn't work, it's going to randomise you. Probably don't question it. It doesn't make sense to the doctor either, which is probably why he tested on Perry first. Perry finds herself in the TARDIS in time to get a gun pointed at her. They see the giant tit explode on the scanner. Oh no, the doctor is dead. I'm free! Cliffhanger time! Dum da dum bum ba dum bum ba dum ba da dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum. Time for episode 3. The doctor shows up 10 seconds later. There's a weird moment here where the doctor actually acknowledges that he's been an absolute cunt for Perry and is very curious why she was actually upset at his potential death. Is this a rare moment of growth from the doctor? Nope. He goes on treating her like crap for another 2.5 seasons. Within the span of 10 seconds, Space Cop goes from thinking the doctor and Perry are the child nappers to believing them and then deciding he wants to tag along. Such is the power of Collin Baker pheromones. They arrive at Jaconda and the doctor does some more mugging. They find a barren wasteland where there were once rainforests. Fucking slugs! The slugs are subjugating the Jacondans. They eat everything and leave them to starve, while they force them to work and care for their young. Meanwhile, the math boys are learning why they are there. 3 episodes in. Very good pacing, I like it. Creepy old guy wants them to use their powers of counting really high to bring 2 smaller planets with similar atmospheres into the orbit of the planet of Jaconda, so the slug can live there instead. Such is the power of math.
This is the power of math, people!
You are correct.
As the math boys get settled in, Space Cop gets stuck in a slime trail. The doctor gets pissy and goes off on his own. He then comes across the old guy and attempts to kill him.
Villain! Murderer! Doctor!
Oh, you're at it again, look.
Look,
Will you stop
showing off his
strangling people?
athleticism.
Space Cop frees himself by shooting himself in the foot. No, literally, look. He and Perry try to follow on, but Perry gets captured and he escapes. She's brought before Slug Daddy, and Space Cop tells the doctor Perry is captured. The doctor is told she must die, because reasons. Time for another cliffhanger. Welcome to episode 4. It's okay because Perry has level 10 plot armor, and Slug Daddy thinks that she's hot. It's like Jabba's palace in here. In canon, the Hooniverse is full of interspecies love nests, so it's not inconceivable that he intends to show her his little slug later. Creepy old guy finally figures out that his plan is completely fucking insane and could never possibly work. Slug Daddy intends for the entire thing to backfire, for one of the planets to fall into the sun, and explode the other ones, sending his children across the cosmos. How would the eggs survive, you ask? Genetic modification. Because that's magic in sci-fi, just like radiation is in comics. And the doctor and his old drinking buddy decide they will take Slug Daddy down with some sort of a fluid that I wasn't paying attention, just go with it. But Slug Daddy is ready for that. He blocks it with his mind powers. And he isn't planning on dying. He's decided to take the doctor's body. The doctor gloats about how he's a big brain smarty pants, and Slug Daddy is like, no, I am the smarts. Here, I'll prove it by possessing creepy old guy. And he does, but creepy old guy's on his last regeneration. And he regenerates, killing the mind of Slug Daddy, and the doctor hurls some acid shit at his body and everything is okay. I don't know how he regenerates. Usually when you are on your last regeneration and you try to regenerate, you end up regenerating as like some sort of a decaying monster. I mean, here's the master for reference. The people are free. That is, until Space Cop decides that they can't under any circumstances be allowed to rule themselves, and decides to help in the rebuilding. The Doctor acts like a cunt again, gives the twins a lift home, and tells Perry off for telling him that he could have been a little bit more polite. The Doctor says something that I think that future showrunners should really keep in mind. He is an alien. He's going to have different values to everyone else. He then tells Perry off for not warming to his persona immediately, and reminds the audience that he is indeed the Doctor, whether we like it or not. So, that was the Twin Dilemma. It has its issues. It has its many issues. Well, look, let's be honest. It's a massive ball of issues in the form of a Doctor Who script. Classic Doctor Who was on its death throes at this point, and it really shows. But to me, that's part of the charm. Like The Room, Birdemic, or anything written by Neil Green, the humour comes from the insanity of the choices made that led up to it, and the bad acting and over-the-top nature of everything. I find this very enjoyable, but Collin really did deserve better than this. This episode was the very definition of a bad first impression, and I wasn't joking when I said the fans hated it. It was made by the same team behind The Mask of Androzani, and aired only a week after so fans wouldn't have to wait to see the next Doctor in action. So if I were a fan watching back in the 80s, I would find it downright insulting. They took a chance to do something different and new by making the Doctor unlikable and the companion completely helpless and having to actually have some agency of her own for once, and they fell flat on their faces. They turned the fandom against them at the darkest hour, gave the BBC even more reason to cancel the show, and if you're a cynical bastard like me, that's fucking hilarious. It's funny in only the most meta of ways. In a so bad it's good kind of way, and Collin deserved better than this. I mean, come on, guys. The decisions leading up to this episode are a coked-up comedy of errors featuring my favourite Doctor as a domestic abuser, and I love it to bits. I mean, watch it with the commentary if you can. Seeing Collin tear chunks out of it while bemoaning every bad decision ever made is wonderfully cathartic. But if you want to get a feel for the Sixth Doctor, I do not recommend this episode or anything else in the TV show. Well, maybe some parts of Trial of the Time Lord, but that's it. If you want to see old 6 years best, take a chance on some Big Finish. The Marrying Conspiracy, Crisscross, Davros, The Holy Terror are all better jumping on points than this shit. If accidental and ironic comedy happens to be your thing, then I'll tell you what, get some mates over, chuck this on, have alcohol at the ready, and laugh yourself stupid. Thanks for watching, you're all bloody legends in my opinion. I'm sorry about the massive left turn that this channel's taken into classic horror. I'm even more sorry about watching the view count drop. And, it's not my fault! This channel was taken over by me from the Mirror Universe. He's a morbid little bastard. Instead of being obsessed with Doctor Who, he's obsessed with classic horror. And all he wants to do is bad readings of Edgar Allan Poe and Lovecraft and all that shit. He's threatened to replace me with a Mondasian Sideman if I don't do whatever he wants. But, they don't exist, right? I figured fuck him, this is my channel, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want. So that's why the next video is going to be a review of Spare Parts, the 5th Doctor adventure that is pretty much a genesis of the Cyberman story. Also, the one Moffat plagiarised for the end of Season 10. You will stop this insubordination. You have been warned.
Oh, fuck! They're real! I've made a horrible mistake!
Do not fear. You will be fixed. Like and subscribe. Please.